In this video, we're going to look at some tools that were added in version 2 of FitFoot 360 that will enable us to create custom relief, custom cutouts, and custom pads. So in the past, we've always been able to create a custom relief with a constant depth on it, or a custom cutout that goes all the way through, but we haven't been able to create custom pads or embossed parts, 3D shapes. In version 2 we can do this now, and so to start with I'm going to show you an image of a foot that I'm going to be dealing with here today. And what I want to do is I want to relieve that area where there's a wound, but I don't want it to be a constant flat. I want it to have a variable shape. So going over here to our custom design area, as before, I can sketch a shape around the area that I want to manage. I can close that curve. And when I go forwards now, it's slightly different in version 2. It gives me the option to do a cutout, a relief, or for the first time ever, an emboss, which is the same as a positive shape or a pad. So I'm going to choose relief. I'm going to choose an initial depth of 4 and go next. Now, this bit's completely new. This window here is my design environment, my sculpting environment. Here I can look at my grid, as I can do in my other design areas, and I can also take dimensions to look at what I'm designing and make sure it's relevant to my design. Right, so let's say I would like to add a little bit more depth to this relief. What I can do is I can say simply add material. I'm going to show my depth map, which will show me how deep I'm going. Keep my brush size as it is and my brush strength, and just simply come in here and sculpt a shape. Now in this case here, it's going the wrong way for me. It's going back upwards. I want it to go away from the foot. So I'm going to reset that, and instead of adding material, I'm going to continue to subtract material or remove material from this relief. And here, if I just simply smooth over the surface, you'll see it telling me how I am raising that material up on that relief. Okay. The result I can smooth, so I have a smoothing tool here. I can put the brush strength up and I can whistle over the surface of that shape to smooth that out. Or, because I don't really like these rounded or these sharper edges around the outside, I can use the global smoothing tool here, and you see what happens. If I keep pressing that, it becomes more dome-like. Okay, so let's say I'm happy with that. I can accept it, and the next thing it's going to do is ask me to store it. So in this case here, I'm going to call this V2 relief, and I'm going to call this Heal 1, and simply save it into my library. Now that's there forever. If I go back to my library at the bottom, I have my new V2 relief library and this brand new relief that is not just flat, but is completely curved into the foot. So here I can say size 2 and prescribe that in. And that there will wrap my completely custom shape into my area where I have a wound. So that's an example of a custom relief. The next thing I want to show is how we can create a custom positive shape or embossed shape or pad. To do that, as before, we go into our design area and we can turn on our image, and this time I want to load the midfoot in a very special way. So I'm going to sketch a shape that I like around here, and I'm going to close that curve off, and I'm going to bring that shape in here like so. I think that's about right. Go next. This time I'm going to create an emboss with a start depth or height of 4 and go next. And here I've got this shape, and what I'm going to do is add material. I'm going to increase the brush strength to maximum, and I'm going to use limit height. I know it's 4 millimeters at the moment, so I'm going to increase that to 5. And now that means that whatever I do, it can only add a millimeter extra onto that surface. Okay. I'm going to bring that down because I want it sort of to be tapered here. And then I'm going to increase that limit to 6 and then come in here. So now, as you can see, I've got this step going on. To sort out the steps, I can use the smoothing brush to get rid of some of those shapes that I don't like. Just keep sculpting through there like so. Or as well as, I can use the global smoothing again to see what would happen. And in this case, if I keep going, it's going to give me a nice dome shape that I want. If I accept that, once again, it's going to give me a category, and I'm going to call this one V2 pads and call this midfoot dome 1 and save it. Once again, this is mine to use ad infinitum. So down here, I now have V2 pads, and I can select and add that one into the system. Now, it's not fixed. This is what is quite clever about these new pads that we've got in version 2, is that I can treat them as I would have treated any pad that we would have either made for you as a custom pad or you had included in the installation. I can change its height. I can have it as a low relief, or I can have it as a high dome. Okay, so it's completely flexible and designed to meet my exact specifications for this foot. Or perhaps I have a unique methodology that I like to apply to my patients that no one else is using, and this is also where I might use this tool to create unique functionality for me. Finally, I want to show you cutouts. So same area again. This time I'm going to bring my image up and we're going to look at this area here, and instead of offloading, we're going to simply cut it out with a view to replacing it with a softer material later. As before, we create our shape, and this time we're not going to do any sculpting. We're just going to go next, and we'll get our cutouts, and that will be a V2 cut, which is very similar to the V1 process, and I'll call this cut for 5th and save that. When I go back to my library, I have a new area called cuts, and I can apply that into that area there. So here I have relief that is custom in 2D and 3D. I have pads that I've made myself, and I also have cutouts, and all three together can give me the result that I'm looking for. So that's a very simple overview of some of the new sculpting tools that are available in version 2 of FitFit 360, which I think will add great value to customers and prospects going forwards.